Welcome back to our Ansible training session. As I showed in the previous session, here I have my machines, and you can observe that the main machine that I'm using is a CentOS machine, whereas my client 1 and 2 are also CentOS machine or the Red Hat based machines, whereas client 3 and 4, these two are the Ubuntu based machines. So let me continue. Let me just check whether Ansible connectivity is working with respect to all the machines. So let me get into the Ansible folder where I do have the configuration file. As you know, Ansible configuration file is pointing to its inventory file, which is located side by side to it, and the content of inventory file is having the name alias names for each of the clients as well as their IP addresses and the user ID. And we have a private public key based access to these machines so that we need not have to specify the password. And here I'm using the same command yum ping, pushing the ping module to all of them to check whether the connectivity is existing with respect to all the machines. And you can see with respect to the Ubuntu as well as CentOS client as well to the local machine, the connectivity is working perfectly. So till now we have worked with only ping module as well. In the last session, we have checked with respect to few command modules later leading to the file module. But actually our intention of using Ansible is to do a configuration. That means basically to prepare a server to have a necessary environment. We want to install certain packages. We wanted to start some services, so let's move step by step towards that. The easiest among the packages that we can try out is basically a Apache server. A Apache server will make you make any particular server as a web server. So let's try systemctl status HTTPD. You can see the HTTPD, basically the Apache service is not found in the host machine itself. But of course, I wanted to install it in a remote server. So for that purpose, I'll just log in into my first remote server, client 1. Sorry, the username is web client, dev client at the rate client 1. That is the username and the name with which that server is identified here. This you know from the previous sessions of inventory. So this is how exactly I made access to that. I'm accessing the remote client and I'm just checking their systemctl status HTTPD. And here you can see there also it is not found. Let me exit from here. Just for your information, here client 1 that I had used here, this basically refers to the server 192.168.56.111, which of course in my inventory file is referred by the different name as COS client 1, just to check whether the connectivity is there or not with respect to that. Anyway, I had already checked with respect to all the servers. Yet let me just check COS client 1. Let me just push the ping module and check, and you can see that the connectivity is working. So let me just see how exactly I can use working with the 1 minute. Send client 01, send client 1, Ansible send client 1, and instead of pushing the ping module, this time in order to install the package, I am pushing the yum module, yum module, wherein I specify the arguments. There are two arguments minimum that need to be specified within the single quotes. First is the name of the package that I wanted to install. Of course, this can simply be done by using yum install HTTPD also, that in the remote server. But here, sitting on the host server, I'm making this configuration to the remote server, installing that package to the remote server. And state, I'm specifying it as present because I wanted to install that particular package. So I'm just ending that single quote. Let me just try whether I could be able to install it. it is unable to find with respect to the host pattern. Okay, there is a small spelling mistake here. That's why it is COS client. COS client. Okay, that I have, whatever I have specified here, the same thing need to be specified in this. A small mistake in the spelling name also could create a problem. Here, of course, you can see it is rejecting it, saying that this command has to run under the root user. Currently, the username is DevOps, with which it is trying to log in into that remote user. But of course, while logging in into the remote user, as you have already seen, while logging in into this user, the username used will be dev client. But incidentally, dev client is not a root user. It has to get that root permission. You know, whenever we are trying to do installation, yum install, if you want to install any package, we always use sudo yum install. So the same sudo permission we need to give it to this. So how do we give that sudo permission? That we can do it by specifying -b option. Here B stands for become user. That means this normal user now become a root user. But of course, just this much may not be sufficient because it is essential. Even if I specify this, let's see what will going to happen. Now I have made it as a super user. But of course, it is saying it is missing the sudo password, because whenever you are trying to make a operation as a root user, you require it not only to make it as a sudo, you need to also specify. For example, if I just specify here sudo vi/etc/host, even on my host machine, it asks for the password, right? I'm just quitting here. I'm not specifying any password. I just come out of this. Okay, it is saying password is required. So how do I specify the password? The simplest way in which I can specify is by giving here ask become pass. And if I specify this, it is asking now in an interactive way, it is asking for the password. I had specified the password for that. This is the sudo password to give the root privilege so that it can do the installation. It might take a few minutes, sometimes depending upon the type of package. I choose HTTPD Apache package because it's the fastest to install. It's a simple package. Okay, so here you can see it is throwing the output. It is saying changed true. That means it had done something. It had installed these many things. So shall we see whether it had really done the installation? So let me just go back to my old SSH command, dev client @client1. Let me just go into this and let me check there the command that I had used earlier, systemctl status httpd. And here you can see it had done the installation. It had done the installation, but the service is still not started. So that means I need to now start the service. So in order to start the service, let me use the command once again, Ansible COS client 1. Same thing. Let me just repeat that command. That is better. Oh, okay. First, most important is I need to come back to my host machine. And from the host machine, let me go back to the same command. Now, instead of using the yum module, I'll going to use the service module. And for this service module, I need to pass the arguments. And the first argument is name HTTPD. Okay. And then state as sorted. Okay. Generally, this is not the way we do the configuration. Later, we will going to write the playbook. This I'm just showing it to you how we can install a single package or how we can simply start a single service from the command line. And don't practice too much on this because it is better always to write the playbook and later the playbook in the form of roles. And even to start the service, it is essential. You need to specify the sudo privilege. Ask become pass. It's asking for the password. Might take a second, and then you can see it is throwing all these output information. There is so much of information here. And most important for us is it is showing the status started, and this indicates that some change has been resulted in. It is showing various status information, other things. And now if I once again log in into that same remote client, and if I check with the same status HTTPD, now you can see the state it is showing that the HTTPD service is not just installed here, and the service is also started. Shall we try the same thing on the Ubuntu client? We will do it in the next video. Thank you.